everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I'm your host, Greg Flammang, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uyeyama, Mr. Jamie University. It is Tuesday, August 19th, and we got to be on the precipice of a Notre Dame announcement of some kind of news regarding the quarterback. They start Miami prep today. They got to get their guy up to speed with the game plan and everything, so we expect news today, tomorrow, sometime soon on who that's going to be. Me and Jamie are going to talk about that. We're going to talk about offensive line. They've got still a battle going on at right guard. It's funny how no one says things like, if you got two right guards, you have zero when it comes to a position like that.
Yeah.
But so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about safety. Looks like Notre Dame's got a bunch of safeties they can play. There's some excitement around Eli Raridan coming from the mouth of Mike Denbrock, so that'll be interesting. So we're going to talk about all things from, Notre Dame scrimmage on Sunday and the intel we gathered there and everything like that. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. If you like what you hear, please hit that like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell so whenever it is, we are going live. Links to the podcast are in the description below. And as always, the show is brought to you by ESQ Clothing. Founded by Notre Dame alum Ge Wang, and Chicago's go-to for the best custom suits, shirts, and sport coats. As Notre Dame reloads for the season, now's the time to refresh your wardrobe and add the perfect suit, sport coat, tuxedo, or casual jacket for fall. ESQ's master tailors combine next-level craftsmanship with the finest fabrics to deliver a fit that's built just for you. Now with showrooms both downtown Chicago and in Winnetka, book your custom fitting at esqclothing.com. and step into confidence with Chicago's finest. Mention ISD at your appointment and receive 10% off your purchase. Jamie, you've taken in kind of all the information from the scrimmage that we got, the intel piece that Matt was able to put out over the weekend at IrishSportsDaily.com. Without getting into kind of the conjecture and all the kind of the rumors and all that stuff that surrounded the quarterback position, last weekend, where are you at with things right now? How you feel about the quarterback spot? What your confidence is and kind of that position, how well that spot is going to be able to play in 2025. Kind of where are you at? And we get a heat check on you at the quarterback position right now.
I really don't know, what to expect from the position in 2025 because I don't even think if that guy was one guy was absolutely lighting it up the whole spring and fall, that would be bad news for the defense. You know what I mean? I'd be like, well, what's going on with Chris Ash's defense? Like, to be honest, because I know what kind of talent level they have in the defense. So that would make me think that there was something wrong. With scheme wise, they changed way too much or they're confused or whatever. So I don't like hearing that, these guys weren't lights out the whole camp. I'm like, yeah, they wouldn't be because I've watched a million quarterbacks go against Notre Dame's defense the last 2 years, and most of them struggled. Like 90% of them struggled, to be honest. Right. So I don't think that's reflective of like what you're going to expect this year. Cause also those guys are going to play and get experience and get better. Right. Just like Riley Leonard did last year. And he was a vet and he was a guy who had played and started 2 years before that. So I think I'm taking it as, I think both these guys are talented. I've certainly, seen that from them. I've heard that, both guys, are capable of playing, but I really think that like, ultimately when it comes down to it, being able to limit mistakes and decision-making, which they've talked about the whole time, that is massive. That is going to be the thing, because you know that you're going to get into these games, especially early on in the season, where it's close. And it's going to take, one mistake could cost you a game. As much as one good throw could get you think, like, you don't want to be in a situation like we just kind of said about, like, Tyler Buckner yesterday when we were talking about him in the Gator Bowl, right?
Yeah.
You'll lose those games if you could throw 3 interceptions or 3 touchdowns. You throw 3 picks, you're going to lose those games. You just will, right? Like, so I just don't think that that's the way to kind of approach it, and you have to see how much those guys can grow. But the offense, but just the infrastructure is there for them to be successful. It's just really, really set up well for them to be successful. And there's going to be growing pains. You just want to see where they're at by the time you get the end of September, and who it is at that point, because either QB1 is going to come in and you're like, wow, well, this guy's really there's a big difference between when he had that first start against Miami on the road to when they played Arkansas on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think that's something that I think you want to see the growth from that player during that time.
Yeah. Commander Luke said, "Putrid is the way one guy subscribed the quarterback situation the entire fall camp." I don't know who he's referring to here. But I mean, there's lots of comments about that sort of thing. That's not something that we've heard. That's not the
it's just not true
that
it's
we've
not
gotten.
True. It's not true.
Because the other part too is we hear so many good things about the wideouts. You can't really have one thing without the other, Yes. Someone's throwing them the ball. So that's something that I take into this. I do think, after the first practice, when Carr threw a bunch of interceptions or whatever, and Minchey threw interceptions that day too, is, we kind of said, like, we're not really freaking out about it, because if the interceptions continue, he won't be the quarterback. And unfortunately, there is intel that says he has continued to throw interceptions. And that's the issue that Notre Dame has here, is he's clearly very good. He's clearly a very good passer. And he's probably, from a pure passing standpoint, he might be the better quarterback of the two guys. Maybe not even might, I don't want to say definitively, because I don't watch, right? It's just kind of what we hear. But that's the issue that Notre Dame has, is you have talent, but if you continue to throw interceptions, you can't be the quarterback. And all you can go off of is what you're doing in practice. I think it's hard for Notre Dame. The other part of this too, Jamie, and you can kind of speak to this as well. When you're in camp, there's only really so much you can figure out about how they will react in an actual game. That's the hard part, is you can see on the photo, they're in red jerseys. You don't play red jerseys against Miami, right? It's real. And the consequences are very real. You don't get to just do it again. You don't just get yelled at. Like, there's consequences to everything that happens in an actual game. And because neither of these players has played real snaps, they don't know how they will react in a game situation. And they can try to do things, and you can hear Marcus Freeman when he speaks talking about, we're trying to put them in a situation that is going to up the pressure, because that's the X factor that they don't really know about, is what's it going to look like in an actual game. And that's, in my opinion, that to me, beyond all the other stuff, is why this has taken so long in the sense that it's taken long at all. Right. I mean, now is when they needed to decide. I think that to me is the part. It's like they're trying to get the most information to figure out what's it going to look like in an actual game. So I think that's kind of where it is for me. I'm curious to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, the whole thing of, like, you're being put in all these pressure situations, they're putting in adverse situations. That's the whole point, because you're going to get adverse situations in those first two games, right? Like those, I mean, the whole season you are, but like in those first two games specifically, like those are probably the two best teams you're probably going to play all year. And that's going to be, something that if you're not ready for that, then what's the point of camp? Then they did them a disservice, right? They did the whole team a disservice by not getting those guys ready. And which is why they have to go against, Notre Dame's defense. And by the way, Notre Dame's defense, the best defense they'll face all year. It's not close. It's whatever. Look at any kind of projections. You look at ratings last year, anything. Notre Dame is a top 5 defense. There's no other defense. One other defense in the top 20 projected this year. No one else. And I'm not saying some of those defense won't be like good on that day or whatever, but if you're just talking about like level of play, talent, all that, it's not close. Like there's, yes, A&M has some dudes, Miami's got some dudes, USC's got some dudes. The totality of like all three levels of the defense, they won't face the defense better. So it matters how they do against those games, because also that when you get into the playoff, if that, hopefully all goes well, you get in the playoff, that's who you're going to face, those types of defenses. So you practice that way because it's supposed to make the games easier. And that's like the whole point. And that's the thing. I saw somebody I just want to mention, somebody was like speculating about like, oh, this guy threw a pick six and whatever. It's like, guys, sign up for Irish Sports Daily. Matt Freeman, he's got notes on that scrimmage that you can check out. We're not going to like give away that kind of intel on here because that's, specific to what we offer as a premium thing. So I highly recommend you check it out, and I would say it's worth it. And I think there's still like a camp deal going on. So sign up for the camp deal if you want.
Yeah. A lot of good info from Matt on that. And that's like, again, one of those things, like what Matt tells us is what he's putting for everyone. So like everyone gets that information, that everyone on the board gets the information that we get. Right. I think the other part of this too is it's interesting to me how like Minchey has been, first of all, like some of the things that people talk about, like it's posed as a negative that he doesn't turn the ball over and he's willing to check the ball down, even if that, to the extent that that's happening in practice. Like these are good things. Like that's part of why you would win a job. You're not throwing picks and you're taking what's available to you. Like that is good quarterback play.
Please go watch Tom Brady. just watch any game of Tom Brady throughout his whole entire Hall of Fame career as the best quarterback that ever lived. And look how many times he checks it down. Like it's a lot, guys. It's a lot. Obviously, you got to make some big time throws in certain moments. But hey, if you're not open against Notre Dame secondary, don't throw it. Don't throw it. Don't force something. That's dumb. I mean, to get upset about that is it's nonsensical.
Yeah. I think Sid Irish, Sid was having a tough time in the chat this before the show started.
He's always having a tough time.
But I do think by the tenor of the comments, like it's in good faith, right? It's not a troll. I don't think he's a troll. Yeah. So, but I want to address it.
That's their regular.
I want to address it because the other thing that I've kind of gathered throughout the camp is like Notre Dame has made this hard on the quarterbacks on purpose.
Yes, that
has been the nature of it, right? So the fact that the defense is far ahead, they would have been anyway, regardless. The fact that they're struggling was kind of by design. Notre Dame wanted to see that. They need to know what it's going to look like when they struggle, how they react, how they perform on the next play, right? So like that's all part of the data point. I think the thing, and I kind of mentioned it on Power Hour yesterday, is at this point, Notre Dame's going to put an actual game plan for Miami. They're testing these guys in camp against Notre Dame's ones. They're not featuring the running game in that situation because they're not trying to get Jeremiah Love or Jadarian Price banged up. And B, they want to find out about these quarterbacks, right? So when it comes to actually trying to win a football game, they're not going to necessarily put the quarterbacks in situations that they did in camp, right? So that's why for me, I don't worry about things like the defense won the scrimmage because I just don't care. Like to me, it's like they got to prep these quarterbacks for what they're going to see in games. So when game time comes, Jeremiah Love is going to be heavily featured, right? Jadarian Price is going to be heavily featured, so I don't extrapolate what I feel about this season from the reports that we're getting from practice. It's more about what are the quarterbacks doing and how are they deciding. The other part of this too is I don't think it's over when they say who's going to start against Miami. No one's going to have a leash like Riley Leonard had last year.
No, it's not.
No one's going to have that. So I think both of these guys, I've said it before, I want to know how they're both playing because I think they both got to be ready. I think they both are going to be called on to win a game for Notre Dame. I bet whoever doesn't win this job is going to start at least one game for Notre Dame this year. Chances are, right? So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Is I think they both got to be ready, and I think that the way that they prep them is the best way to figure out who that's going to be, right? Let's talk offensive line for a second, Jamie. Before we'll probably get back into quarterback later, but let's talk about offensive line. Gerby Lambert and Sullivan Absher are both repping at right guard with the ones. And I think the thing that I think it's missed here is I think that people see Gerby Lambert as the higher rated player, and therefore Notre Dame wants to get him into the lineup. While that may be true, and I believe that to be true, I think they're very, very high on Gerby Lambert. We have heard some very, very good things about Sullivan Absher and what Notre Dame feels about him prior to the Gerby Lambert at guard stuff. They like both of these players. I'm wondering, Jamie, if you feel like this might be a timeshare situation where they're alternating like we've seen before. It's not very common, but I think in this situation they might go with that because I think they both want them to play. What do you think about that?
I don't think it will be. I don't
think so?
I don't think so. I think what could happen is, like you said, it's like a short leash for whoever is starting. Like, you're going to play against some pretty good players against Miami in week 1. If a guy's starting out the game and he's struggling, the guy has like a really bad series, probably the next series he's out. Like, I think that you could see that, but I don't think they're going to be like alternating series.
Planned. Yeah.
No, I don't think it's going to be planned. I think it's just going to be like, well, if we need to do it, we need to do it. I mean, certainly we've seen that before where they've made replacements within the game. And to be honest too, like, Absher's been banged up a little bit in camp.
Yeah, Jason Warnock was asking about his back. Yeah.
It wasn't his back he's banged up, but anyways, it was something different. But like, how he, if he's not fully healthy and he's struggling, well, they'll go to Lambert. Right? And the truth is that no matter who wins the job there, that job needed to be contested. And before they moved Lambert in there and we're giving Will Black some reps there too, that wasn't a contested spot.
Yeah.
Because how they even had it with Jugasaw was like, that wasn't going to be, and it was going to be like guys battling it out for the twos because it was pretty much set in stone. Like, what it is someone had to just play so lights out to really kind of jump above someone. But then once that opened up, it would have been bad if they didn't have somebody pushing Absher there. And whether it was like Chris Terrick, who's like, been on campus for a couple of years and he was the guy doing it, or it's Lambert, they move him inside and Black, whatever. Like, they need to do that because just look at what happened last year where you lost a center and a guard in the same game. Like, if that happens, you have to be ready and you have to have other options there. And if they just said like, okay, we'll just kind of like figure out the twos and Absher, maybe he's not playing at the highest level or whatever, but he's better than the other guys. It's like, no, he needs to be pushed and you need to see if somebody else can handle that. I mean, the fact that it became a thing where, Lambert was still like kind of pushing, I think that's really good news because that means like they really feel good about Lambert rather than them feeling bad about Absher. That means they feel Lambert as, taking a big jump. And one of the things why before they only had him working at tackles is like, well, they want him to like make sure that he's like good there. And obviously they had to feel that he was like mentally he was fine there before they were able to, give him reps inside. And the fact that they did that, like, I think that speaks a lot about like where his development is.
Yeah. You got to love the size too. I feel like Notre Dame has kind of been a little bit undersized recent. Like Rocco isn't the biggest guy. He's like heavier, but he doesn't have that size, right? Like he's not that tall. Like Absher and Gerby are just monsters, like those are guys where it's like you see them line up and you think, man, it's going to be a long day, and Emil Wagner is getting bigger. And obviously Billy Schrouth, who's just a captain, like he's a big guy, so like the size that Notre Dame has there, I think is very encouraging for, in the running game. Obviously there's pass protection questions just because you haven't seen those guys, but you figure they're 2 tackles. They should have some aptitude there, but it's different playing inside and things of that nature. But, this is something that Joe Rudolph has experience with, moving tackles inside. So that's a good sign. I want to go back to a question about quarterbacks. There was a comment in here from Jason, or no, not from Jason Warnock. There was a question about the narrative that Kenny Minchey is a better runner than from Kenneth Arenado. Kenny Minchey isn't really that much more of a runner than Carr. Still don't know where that narrative came from. Do you agree with that? He's not that much more of a runner than Carr.
No, he is more of a runner than Carr. Like it is. I would say it's a pretty big difference just in terms of, I think he is faster than him. Also, just from what I have observed, he's a much better decision maker when it comes to like read stuff. I think that's one thing actually. Like, I wonder, I mean, I haven't heard this. It's just from what I've noticed from like watching practice and from spring games when we've seen it, is that Carr, I don't think is as good on the read stuff, just in deciding like give or keep or like throw it on the RPO in that way. And it might be based on what, his offense was in high school, and maybe like
didn't do a ton of that.
Yeah. And and that could be just like more experience for Minchey just being at Notre Dame longer. I think CJ Carr certainly can run. He's not like immobile at all. But I don't think they're going to. I think with the difference with Carr is that it would be way more rare for them to call a designed quarterback run for him than it would be for Minchey.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they would do it, the frequency they do it. I don't think they're going to do quarterback power. I don't think so. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think they'll do quarterback power with Kenny Minchey. But I can guarantee you they won't do quarterback power with CJ Carr. Like, that's not something that I think fits him. So I think from that kind of perspective, I think, it does change the offense a little bit what you do with the running game and all that. Like, and also too, just when we've watched him, like Minchey has been more willing to run as a scrambler. Like when he escapes pressure, he's been more willing to run.
He did in the spring game. He did in the spring game.
Than Carr has. And that's just like, and just based on everything I've seen from him, it's not that I think Carr can definitely like escape. He's got a good feel there. He's a good athlete. It's just that he is, I don't want to say because Minchey's not like pass first there, because he does look pass, but Carr isn't as.
Here we go. It's announced.
Wow. Oh, it was CJ. Okay. CJ
Carr, QB1 for Notre Dame. It is breaking. So
there you go.
This is very funny based on the entire based on the weekend and how everything was talked about.
Great intel from those guys. Yeah. Great job.
QB1 for CJ Carr. So
I love it.
The talent wins out here, right? So that is the good news, in my opinion, is that what Notre Dame thought it was, and what Notre Dame, because Notre Dame thought this was going to be the case for a long time, based on the intel that we got, right? And that was all the talk. In this post, like spring, like when I say post spring, I mean at post spring game. And this was all the talk post. I
think since he committed, really.
Well, I mean, since he committed, yeah, but like post spring game and then in summer workouts, it was like we had heard, right, that he had a big lead. We didn't want to lean into that
as the heavy favorite.
He came in as the favorite for sure from Notre Dame that we had heard about. We didn't want to lean into that because, like we said, you want them to go to camp. You want them to have a camp. You want them to have that experience of that competition, right? And it'll play out, right? And this is the important thing about, talking about what's going on, throwing interceptions, doing this, doing that, right? You got to just let it play out. We're not there. We know how they feel about his arm. We know how they feel about his talent. They obviously feel like with a game plan, he is the best person for the job, right?
Yeah.
Let's get your reaction. Let's get your reaction, Jamie.
Well, I think it's first of all, congrats to CJ for winning the job. That's awesome. Good for him, obviously, because I really hated how the whole narrative around everything for both of these guys. Like, I just thought, like, man, I really hope these guys aren't checking social media, or like their families aren't checking message boards and all this kind of stuff, because it can get really toxic, of how
it was.
Yeah. And I think that's so I'm glad that it's over for both of these guys in that way, because I really think, like, that is something that I don't think it was healthy. It wasn't healthy for either of these guys. And I think it's great because CJ, and I'm not just talking about like the first day, he had threw the 3 picks on the first day, but I think it took him a while in camp to get going. And maybe he was feeling the little bit of a pressure from being like, oh, you're supposed to be the guy and all that. I think this means that if you're looking at it from the rest of the camp, that he obviously cleaned up a lot of the things and got way better as the course over the course of camp. And that's great news. That is great news. And I think when you look at it, like I said, there's nothing wrong with checking down and all that. And I mean, that is something I bet he probably did a lot more of that as camp went on. But it means he went out and won it. It means he went out and won the job. And that's great. So, like, man, hey, congrats to him. I'm certainly have been a big fan of his in terms of like what he can do. I still think like Kenny Minchey's like a pretty good player as well. So I don't think it would have been bad if he won the job either. I think either one of these guys you can win with, which is something they've said anyways, right? That you can win with. Yeah. But I mean, I think it's a good thing, because there was the one guy in here who was like, he's folding, he's mentally broken or whatever, which I was like, I don't even know where this guy's getting it, but just someone was in the comments saying that. And now maybe people can be quiet about that. Yeah. And let's put the ball out and let's play and let's see him out there. And, like we said, it doesn't guarantee anything for the whole season. But it means that he did the job in camp. So good for him.
Kobe Duvall is asking, did you guys see this coming, Greg and Jamie? No. I mean, to be honest, there was a lot of chatter over the weekend. Not just like about what was kind of reported on other sites or whatever, but like people that I was talking to. And look, I'll give, Matt Freeman credit on this too. Because we kind of asked him just like what he thought, and he, afterwards, and he was just like, I don't have a good feel for like who I think it'll be. Like, he was pretty adamant, like it could still be CJ Carr, and so it's like we kind of just took that as, this is again, like, you got to just take the things that you hear with a grain of salt, right? You don't know how coaches are evaluating things. You just don't. And the interceptions have remained, right? It's not like the intel on that is wrong. Like, he continued to throw interceptions, but he's also continued to push the ball down the field. And I think that's what Marcus Freeman wants. And obviously they feel like, with a game plan, with the wide receivers that they have, and the way that they want to play offense. And I think, something that I said at the start of the show was I think that Notre Dame feels like he is the best passer on the team, right? And by the way, like when you go back to his first spring game, okay, not this last one. I thought he was good in this last spring game. I didn't think he was crazy good. I think his first
there was a
spring
major
game,
overreactions to this last spring game.
Yeah. I thought his first spring game was like as good as a passing kind of display that we've seen from a young player in a very long time. Like to me, that first spring game was like, hey, this guy, he is for real. Like this is serious. And I think for Notre Dame, and by the way, we'll try to get some intel on where this, how this decision came to be made for Notre Dame and that sort of thing. But I think for Notre Dame, it's like that's in there and we need to tap into that. Right. And by the way, you got to give Marcus Freeman some credit. That guy he is a risk taker, man. Because, Matt posed Kenny Minchey as the quote unquote safer option. Marcus Freeman is not a safe guy. All this talk about like Jim Tressel and everything. He guy fakes punts. He goes for it on fourth down. Like he is a go getter. So, I mean, credit to him for that. Because this carries more risk than the Kenny Minchey choice, in my opinion, for sure. What are your kind of comments on that?
I mean, I think so from that perspective. Like when we're talking about like I said, I think the running game does change a bit with him, and that I don't think they'll use him as a runner. He'll scramble, he'll get yards and all that kind of stuff too. But it wouldn't be the same. As with Minchey, they do it more with Minchey. So, and I think that is even a little bit of a risk too, because I think ultimately, like, you need your quarterback in the run game. You just do in college football. That's a thing. I think you'll get more than enough from him. He's like more of a runner than like Carson Beck or whatever, right? Like it's not like that, but it does kind of change a little bit of how you approach things, and it's frankly too how Mike Denbrock has approached things. He's had guys who were more runners, I think more pure runners than him. So I think, that way it is a little bit riskier too. And then, I mean, I think if he goes into Miami and he throws a bunch of picks, he'll get yanked in the game, so it's just what will happen anyways. But he is a guy that is going to, like, I guarantee you he will make throws in that Miami game that people will be like heck yes, they're going to be excited about.
He's always done that.
He's always done that.
He's always had that. I mean, that was something that the talent is there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think too, he's kind of a guy that, because so many things have, going up to it, he was such like a hyped guy for so long. Obviously his, grandfather is Lloyd Carr, the ex-Michigan coach who was, won a national title there. So he's had kind of like pressure on him for a lot of his life. But then, he got hurt last year and missed like a good chunk of the year in terms of practice. And, he's comes out in the first 8, throws 3 picks in the quarterback competition. Like, I think that stuff, not that it's good. You'd rather it be like, I guess, better than that. But like, you want someone to deal with that, because guess what? You're going to make a mistake during games and things are not going to go good. Like Riley Leonard, he knows exactly what that is. You have to have someone who's going to get, who's going to be able to like deal with that and bounce back from that. Obviously, yeah. So that's, that I think that's pretty significant for him.
Do you think it's easier to turn to Minchey later than the other way around?
You know what? I don't know.
I don't mean to imply that this played into the decision. So because I don't think that's true. I was just curious. Like, I do feel like this is a better fit to go to someone like Minchey in the case of, whatever it might be, poor play, an injury or something like that. Like, I feel like it's easier to go the other way than it is this one. That's me just thinking out loud, kind of.
You know what I think too, that I think it's easier to go to if they prepare less for a guy who's not
Mobile.
going to be as not be as much of a runner. It's not. I don't want to
Yeah.
say he's not mobile, but like that. And then all of a sudden you put in a guy. It's like how Marcel Reed came in the LSU game.
Oh yeah,
And then
yeah,
all of a sudden
yeah.
it's just like,
Yeah.
what the heck? Like LSU not ready, you know? Like, so I guess from that perspective, yeah. But I
think
don't know,
I think that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like I hadn't really thought it through, but it just like it I just felt like, and this is an added benefit. Again, I don't think this is why Notre Dame made the decision. I'm just saying it feels to me like you're not preparing for the run game stuff with Carr like you are with Minchey. It's in a different kind of way. So in that sense, it helps out Notre Dame. If you're just joining, the news is breaking, and obviously that's why you're here. We got a bump in viewers. CJ Carr has been named the starting quarterback for Notre Dame. So he's going to be QB1 against Miami. I guess what does this do, I think, in your opinion, for the offense? I guess how do you process this in terms of now? Does it change what you expect the offense to look like against Miami a little bit? What does this mean for the wide receivers? What does this mean for guys like Malachi Fields? And I think, now that just kind of processing this on the fly, the fact that they have the speed guys, they like Malachi Fields, they like Will Pauling going deep. Obviously, they like Faison going deep. Vertical threat from Eli Raridan. Like, do you expect a more vertical team in 2025 from Notre Dame's passing game? Not in terms of volume, but in terms of the type of passing plays that they put on the field.
I'm not 100% sure if I think he would have been like that different there. Like, I think maybe a little bit more. I think he, from my understanding, he had a little bit more success throwing the deep ball in camp. So maybe it will be more frequency. Like that they'll feel a little bit more confident in that, in like taking shots, because they just kind of feel like, hey, we're gonna get this. Like this is one we're gonna have. So I think from that perspective, like I said, with the thing, one question, and I'm very, very interested in this too, because I want to see him in the RPO game and his decision making there and what that is, and how that kind of changes if they're going to be like maybe a little bit less RPO than they would have been with Minchey because of that, or maybe a little bit less read stuff, because that has been a staple for Mike Denbrock at Cincinnati, LSU, Notre Dame, and maybe they won't be as much zone read. So, but that could be just me, not knowing exactly how much they're going to do it. And I don't know. To me, honestly, I'm just kind of relieved that it's over, and I just want to see them. Like, let's roll. Like, I want to see these guys out there. I'm excited to see the offense, because I think that if no matter who won the job, they're going to be surrounded by good talent, and I think he's set up to succeed. He's really set up well to succeed.
Rajon asked the question, what are Carr's skills that Denbrock will take advantage of, remembering to avoid turnovers? You know what's interesting in all of this, and I wanted to bring this up on the show about both of them, is we've heard a lot about like turnovers and decision making and all those other things. We haven't heard about inaccuracy. And that's a big deal, that these guys are accurate with the ball. And that is something that I think has been kind of overlooked. Just their lack of inaccuracy, I guess, is a way to put it. It's like if they're putting the ball where it should be when they're making the right decision, obviously Notre Dame feels like they can get CJ Carr to throw the ball to the right player at the right time, right? Though his accuracy is very, very good. This was a big thing with Riley Leonard. It's like you can make the right read and all that, but if you can't throw the ball accurate, then it doesn't matter. You're throwing the ball in the dirt, right? Because you think about like even the little stuff, like the swing routes, right? Like little inside screen games. Like the easy gimme routes that you have to be able to throw. Like if you're not completing those, then you can't do any of this.
Yeah.
And so I think that is part of it. It's just like all of that little bubble stuff that Notre Dame wants to do. Matt had mentioned before, like this isn't a Brandon Wimbush, Phil Dracovic type situation where
No,
there's an accuracy problem. There is not here, right? So you have that. He's an accurate quarterback. He'll take chances, and I said on a previous show, I think a lot of the struggles with Carr and interceptions, and you kind of went into this too. It's like, you got to be a better decision maker. I think that he was bound and determined to win the job. And it's like, I am going to go after it over and over and over again. And I don't want to compare it to Minchey and his mindset, because I don't know what it was. But I'll add everything that I took from all these interceptions that Carr was throwing is like, man, this kid really wants it. He's going after it, and he is not taking the pedal off the floor. And it can be a negative. And I think it probably might have almost cost him the job. But I think that mentality is something that Marcus Freeman really likes, And so,
well, that is Marcus Freeman's mentality. Like,
yeah.
I think everything that you need to know about Marcus Freeman was revealed. He did an interview before he ever coached as a defensive coordinator at Notre Dame. He had the job, but he hadn't coached in a game yet. He was interviewed on this podcast. It's Make Defense Great Again podcast with this Coach Vass guy who does the podcast. It's good listen. It's a good X and O's podcast. I don't think he does it anymore, but he used to do it. And he had a bunch of different coaches on there, and he had Freeman on there, and his one kind of question he ends with is like, it's 4th and 8, 4th and 7, at midfield, games on the line kind of thing. Like, what's the call? And Freeman was like, pressure. He's like, I don't know what.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't care what we're doing, but he's like, I'm just like, if we're going out, we're going to lose. We're going to lose because they were better than us. I'm going to say my dudes are better than your dudes. And, we're going to go out there and we're going to bring pressure in that moment, because we're going to make you make that, which is absolutely too, like when you think about that. I mean, as much as people didn't like the result of the Jeremiah Smith play, that was that exact situation, right? It was like that. And you could argue, hey, they should have called it different pressure, or they should have done this or that or whatever. Yes, fine. But they decided like that was, what they were going to do in that thing, because that's who Freeman is. And it's exactly who he was on those, fakes and all that kind of stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it fits. It fits the personality.
Yeah. Well, this was a jolt of energy, a jolt of excitement. And if you need to burn off some energy, maybe you could go play some pickleball. And you can do that if you're in the Mishawaka area with H2 Pickleball, founded by alum Todd Hill. He's teaming with fellow alums Jack Gibbs and Will Howells, who's a top 10 pickleball pro, to bring Notre Dame fans to Notre Dame Pickleball Crew League. Besides football, what better way to connect and engage Notre Dame fans than through pickleball? Membership is free, and the members will have access to special pickleball events and discounts. The first event will be a tournament before the Purdue game with medal rounds played on campus. A portion of the proceeds will go to the Rockney Athletics Fund to support our student athletes. Contact Todd at h2pickleball.com or 574-339-5195 to join the league. And be sure to visit the H2 Pickleball facility in Mishawaka when you are in town. H2 Pickleball is located at 55801 Evergreen Plaza Drive in Mishawaka. H2 Pickleball. All right, let's talk wideouts now, Jamie. So we've got Notre Dame's quarterback. We've got the quarterback settled. Let's talk what this means for the wide receivers. To be honest with you, I do think this kind of adds to the excitement around the wide receiver position and the types of skill that Notre Dame has with Malachi Fields, with Will Pauling. Just a question for you about Will Pauling.
Yeah.
Do you think he's going to be a slot?
I mean,
because I see clips of him and he's running in slot.
Yeah.
And that's interesting to me.
Well, I think they're going to have him there. Like he's been a slot. That's what he's been.
Yeah.
Like literally his whole career. So I think that's where he's going to play a good chunk of the time there. I think the thing with Greathouse is that I think Greathouse is going to be the guy who's like in motion all the time. Frankly, like they're going to be like, oh, he's adding in here to help block on this run play. Oh, well, he's getting out wide to get this matchup. Oh, here he is in the slot. I don't think he's going to be stationary very often.
Yeah.
I think that is going to be something with Greathouse where you kind of mix and match. And I also think there's going to be more points too where they're going to have Greathouse, those guys on the field together, where some kind of double slot formation kind of thing where, well, they have Malachi Fields on the boundary, and it turns out they're going to put Eli Reardon on the other boundary, and it's going to be like that kind of thing. I mean, frankly, too, I thought they should have put Faison in the slot way more last year. I think that's part of the reason why he didn't. Obviously he had the injury too, but part of the reason why he didn't have the same level of success is, he switched positions, and I think his best position is in the slot. Right. So frankly, if Jaden Greathouse has an awesome year and then ends up going to the league, I think 100% they should move Faison back to the slot. That's what I would do. But we'll see. But I think that it'll be interesting to kind of see it there. I think it suits him better. He definitely is, because he's so gritty and stuff too. He's a guy who wants to get involved in the run game. It kind of makes sense from that perspective too. So I like it. I'm really, really excited to kind of see what they do with him. Relax, Raymond Horton. You got me all mad. What are you talking about?
You can get mad.
I don't know what he was talking about.
I don't know what he is.
When I said it wasn't done, yeah, it wasn't done. It was not done. They just made
it was 100% not done.
Yeah.
Again, Matt said it wasn't done, and it wasn't on Thursday. He said he wasn't going to announce it on Sunday, and he didn't. Right? The reporting was the thing is we can talk about whatever, but it was never reported by us or anybody who even thought the leader was. So I don't. We acknowledge that there's chatter out there, right? But it is what it is. Yeah, it's just interesting because you think about Pauling, and they got him in the slot there, and it's like Greathouse is there, right? And everyone's kind of predicting this huge season for Greathouse. They just named Will Pauling a captain, So I think that's going to be kind of interesting to track. I do think, weirdly, this kind of unlocks a lot of. I think it unlocks a lot of the Jeremiah Love and the slot stuff too, I think that's also kind of like a bigger factor to me. Someone asked me for a player comp for Carr. I've always been kind of on the Rick Meyer thing. And I know that goes way back, but I think that's his athleticism. I think he has that type of athletic type build, or the athletic type profile. I think because if you look at Rick Meyer, he was mobile. They were willing to run options with him. They were willing to run with him. He had a bunch of good scrambles throughout his career. He was a mobile guy. I think they throw the ball similar. Rick Meyer, the reason he was drafted so high is he threw the ball beautifully. It's just at Notre Dame, they didn't run the type of offense that people would look at. And obviously that didn't really prep him for the pros, but that has nothing to do with CJ Carr. But that's kind of who I compare him to. I just think this kind of unlocks more so the Jeremiah Love in the slot and kind of spreading the ball out. Because one thing that CJ Carr is very comfortable with, because of the offense that he was in, is having the field spread and having the team in trips and having, an open style field. Matt Freeman is going to be loving this, right? He doesn't want any tight ends on the roster. Yeah. Matt's a weirdo.
Yeah.
Right. But this is what Matt is into. And I think this lends itself to a more open kind of offense, because that is what CJ Carr is used to, because they did a lot of this in high school for him. So I think that's very interesting from just what it means for guys like Jeremiah Love and getting more wide receivers on the field, because, we've heard there are so many wide receivers who are having good camps for Notre Dame. It just kind of lends itself to hey, let's get more of those guys on the field, right? You can always put Jeremiah, and the kind of short tight ends too. So that's another part where it kind of fits into that. Where should we go right now, Jamie? I mean, obviously this is kind of, there's the show rundown and then there's the quarterbacks. You want to go to D-line?
Sure.
Let's go D-line, because I think, and we can get more quarterback stuff as it comes up, more information comes out. But I think the thing that we've heard is that the offense is not dominating the defense up front. And we know they have a bunch of experience up there. We know they have a bunch of talent that they like up there. And the fact that the offense, and I think this is kind of, when you look at the type of season and the ceiling for this team, is the interior needs to hold up, right? We know that they named Donovan Heinisch a captain, so you feel good about him being a starter, right? You don't name a guy captain unless you feel like he's going to be a starter. This is a big part of it. If teams cannot run on Notre Dame, you've talked a lot about how good the defense is. If you can't run on this team, I don't know that you really have a chance, because you can't just line up on 3rd and long and be throwing against them all the time. You just can't. There's too many options. And speaking of things that we've heard amazing things about Bryce Young and just how he looks and how he looked in the scrimmage, and he was almost dominant the way that he was performing in that scrimmage. I think the D-line is kind of the undersold story of the camp so far on things we've heard, and what it could mean for the season. We talk a lot about quarterbacks, what it means. D-line could be a big part of that as well.
I think, yeah. And a lot of guys are talking about Anye in the thing, and the praise that Marcus Freeman gave him. And I think that is really, really important, because, not that he's getting praise, but the fact that he's had that kind of camp, because frankly, that hasn't been, I'm not even sure if I think people were kind of took it as like, he's had the best camp that he's seen from anyone. I thought he meant from Anye specifically, but I could be wrong. In my opinion, it doesn't matter, like, what it was and what he was saying. I think this is easily the best version of him, and I think that's what they needed. And it shows that exactly kind of what we talked about, where like he was having a breakout year last year. It just got interrupted by obviously his mental health, and and the fact that he's back and then playing at this like high level, I think it's huge. And as much as, there's people who have concerns about Donovan Heinisch's size and all that, and like, what that means and all that kind of stuff. I mean, Jason Anye is the most dude-looking guy on the defensive line, probably on the roster. Like, you know what I mean? Like there aren't too many other guys there actually is more guys who look like him now than there was before, but like he's absolutely the same kind of thing of like Riley Mills, where you're like, man, this guy just looks different, right? So I think that him being that more like consistent presence is huge for them. Obviously you feel great about what they're at linebacker. But if the D line is playing well, you always want to stop. You got to stop the run with less bodies. That's the whole deal. Because if you do that, then teams can't beat you over the top with explosives, right? Because you're not as, you're consistent that you can stop the run with less bodies, and you feel good about like your safeties coming down and support. And I think they do feel good, really good about the safeties in that way too. And it'll be about like whether or not they get that play from inside. It sounds like they really like what they see inside.
Yeah, and we know what they like outside too. We know those ends are really good. They can go kind of a number of directions there, and then you have your middle linebackers. And I gotta say, like, of impressive, like it's impressive on Jason Onye's part. I am so impressed with Jalen Sneed. And the fact that he has remained with the ones and he's held off KVA. We know KVA is going to play, right? That's not a question. And they're all going to play. Jaden Osbury is going to play, but you knew Jake Bowen's going to be that other linebacker there as well. Jalen Sneed being able to hold off KVA and kind of maintain that spot, and whatever it means as far as like, maybe KVA out snaps him or whatever. I'm just impressed with his willingness to stick it out and his want to remain with this program. And then because here's the other part, man. You got a guy like KVA who's younger than you, who's trying to get on that field. It's very easy to just be like, you know what? They're going to choose him. I'm just going to go somewhere else where the path is clear. And you can't even hate on a guy for that. The fact that he bet on himself to stay at Notre Dame, I am so impressed with that. Like, truly. And it says a lot about him. I mean, when you even go back to the Louisville game when we were there and he's leaving the field before the alma mater, you go from that to where he is now. Just what a tremendous example of stick-to-itiveness, perseverance, rigor, and believing in your coaches and your team and believing in yourself to be in this spot. I'm very impressed with him. I mean, I don't want to say I root for him because it's kind of beyond our scope of what we do here. But I do root for the guy. Like, I hope he has a great season, like, just because of the fact that he was able to stick it out. And I think it's a great example for his teammates.
Well, I think there's nothing wrong with rooting for the guys who have like tougher roads than other people.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that is, I mean, it's human to do that. And just like being able to like acknowledge that some of these guys, you know, it didn't work out for them, which is one of these reasons why when you hear about like, I know everyone's like, well, Cam Williams, write him off now, right? I'm like, it'll probably just make me root for him harder, you know, like that. Cause like, and it's not about like him living up to his potential. It's just like, I don't like it when people count these guys out when I think it's like too early. And I'm not saying that everyone was counting, you know, Snead out, but he certainly wasn't. If you go and look at like where, like, you know, Dane Brugler's top linebacker, he's not mentioned there.
Yeah.
Because frankly, it's like, is he just a sub package guy? And he's just like that thing, maybe it gets him on a roster in the NFL, but it's probably not going to get him drafted, you know? So he's got to kind of prove that he can be an every down linebacker, and him doing that and keeping that job when you have all those guys, like, you know, someone was mentioning about how like Osbury, they didn't mention him by name, but like how he was like second on the team in tackles for loss. Like Osbury is like totally just like a forgotten guy almost in that group. And, you know, that was something like he already had he had an awesome scrimmage the other day. It's like, yeah, they got a lot of good guys. So if he's keeping that job and he's a starter and you're beating out guys that when they're like KVA, it's like Bull's like the sky's the limit, just like talking about how great he is. And Osbury is out there balling, making plays. Like he's obviously, you know, doing a lot right and has really kind of like taken steps. Because honestly, there was a point last year in Louisville, right, when he got benched in that second half of that game.
Yeah.
I thought, hey, there's a chance like we might not hear from him as like an every down linebacker again. And the fact that he is like, you know, speaks to everything he said. Yeah.
Going to the further spine of the defense, back to the safety position. Adon Schuler is named the captain, which we love to see. We love to see safeties, you know, get the C, right? So you have the three levels of the spine. You have Donovan Heinisch, you have Drake Bowen, and you have Adon Schuler in the back there. It sounds like it's going to just be a rotation there of some kind with Jalen Stroman, Tay Johnson, and Luke Tolich. You know, the thing that I think it was Chris Ash who said about Tay Johnson is there's a little bit of doesn't always get the call correct. And that is the thing where it's like, that's why you don't start. And that's fine, by the way. Like he's new to the position in terms of like how many years he's actually played it. He didn't really play it in high school. He played corner last year for Notre Dame. So he's not getting a ton of reps at safety. They do have a different defensive coordinator. So that plays a little bit of a role there, but the talent is so immense that he's going to get on the field, and that's good for him as well. And he gets to sit behind Adon Schuler and Jalen Stroman, two seniors. Feel really good about the safety position, Jamie. I think there's going to be like really good play there. And I think it's going to be like, this is a deal where by week 5, week 6, kind of like we saw with Xavier Watts, by the way, in 2022, when you're the back half of 2022, it's like, hey, by the way, Xavier Watts started again. I think it's very likely that is going to be the case. I don't want to say very likely. It's very possible. It's a better way to put it. Very possible that that's the case with Tay Johnson because he's a physical marvel. And it seems to me just from reporting that there's been almost once a practice he's doing something that's just kind of out of this world. So that's going to be something to monitor going forward. But got to feel good about the safety position now, Jamie.
Yeah, really good because I think and kind of cover all the bases. And I think when you're talking about obviously sealing with Johnson, I think that exactly what you want to hear there. And yeah, and you hope that it's a little bit like the quarterback where obviously the quarterback has to play and then grow into it. But like Johnson, he's going to play, but he doesn't have to be like relied on that whole time. He's got to go out and earn it on the field and show that he can be trustworthy throughout the whole season. And like, I think frankly, if he does, that's the kind of thing where that's great. And then, I mean, there was points too, like, with Schuler last year, they were like, this team's going 10 personnel. We're going to put in Rod Hurd here, right? Because we feel better. And I think you might be able to see some of that where, hey, they're going to mix and match a little bit more with those safeties, depending on who they play against. I will say it's really encouraging that Jalen Stroman is, been a guy that they've been very happy with and that he's like been running with the ones and all that. I think that is, he's kind of forgotten as an addition to the transfer, class because he missed the spring. And, at the beginning of camp, he was not kind of talked about in a way that, that he was going to be somebody that, he's going to be working with one. Then all of a sudden it's just, he got there. I think that's, a really, really good development. And, I mean, ultimately I bet like they'll play 4, but it's not going to be, there'll be a separation between like the top 2 later on. But I think, the beginning of the season is kind of like, where you find that out. And it's really like, it's not a bad thing when you have like good players and they all can play. And then you just decide like, well, this guy should play over this guy more. And cause you got to go out and earn it.
Yeah. Let's go back to the quarterbacks. Question here from Anthony Imperial. What would you say the keys are to getting CJ comfortable in a hostile environment week 1 at Miami?
Run the ball. Like you support him. You put him in favorable situations. Give him layups. Give him options. It's like, okay, here's the thing. Make sure that he knows, hey, here's a layup here.
Get the ball to that guy.
Yeah. Give him layups. And it's not to say you don't want to see him. Of course, everyone wants to see it. Like, I'm going to be thrilled the first time I see a CJ Carr deep ball going down the field. And like, I mean, he throws a beautiful deep ball. I'm going to be excited to see it. But, especially early on in the game to get him comfortable, you want to get him into favorable situations. So if it's like, and they're in 3rd down, it's 3rd and 3. It's 3rd and 3. So they got a lot of options here of what they can do, and they can make it easy. If they're in the things where it's like 3rd and 8, 3rd and long, whatever, like those aren't favorable situations on the road for, a first time starting quarterback. You want to get out of those
for either one of these guys. Yeah.
For either one. I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm just talking about any quarterback who's making their very first career start on the road. There's also too, because there's a lot of unknowns about what Miami is going to do because it's a new coordinator. I mean, obviously they're going to watch film. He was at Minnesota last year. He's been in a bunch of other places. They also have like literally like a brand new secondary, except for like one guy. Like 4 of the other 5 starters in the secondary are new transfer guys. And we kind of saw that with A&M last year, and it was like a little bit discombobulated. And I think it could be, similar for Miami a bit, but just the unknowns of everything to make it easier. If like, you're not sure of like, I mean, we weren't expecting this call. We weren't expecting this from these players. Run the ball, have success there. Obviously they're going to do everything they can to stop the run. But if they're actually loading up, if they anytime, even though it's one of these things, it's like, well, we're going to make the quarterback beat us. You want to make the quarterback beat you with less bodies, because if you are bringing actually 8 into the box consistently, it makes it life easier in a way for the quarterback, because the throws become more defined, right? So,
and that goes to the strength of the quarterback in question.
Yes,
because the concern has been decision making. Well, if you take the decision out of his hands and you make it a very easy choice, and it's a one-on-one matchup, now you're just relying on his talent. Well, Notre Dame will take that bet, right? Yeah, like we want to rely on his talent. That's why he's the quarterback, And so I mentioned this in a show 2 weeks ago, and it's probably, I think, I don't know if I mentioned Carr specifically. I think it was more into his wheelhouse because he is the better passer. I mean, there's been a lot of discussion about how good of a deep ball thrower he is, and that's something that Notre Dame wants to tap into. They didn't have that in their bag last year, really at all, beyond the slot fade, right? They want to be a go ball team. They want to throw seams. They want to throw posts. Like, they want to be able to run those routes. It opens up a lot of things for any offense, right? Not just Notre Dame's offense. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is, because either way, they were going to be inexperienced and they were going to have a learning curve, right? And so run the ball with your running backs, control the game with your defense, control the game with your offensive line, right? Like you said, give them layups. It would be great if Notre Dame got out to a lead, and they could do that.
Oh yeah,
that was a huge. Yeah, I mean, that was a huge part of their success last year. They were never losing. Even when they, and we can get into this more when, it's actually game week and that sort of thing. But there was the way that Notre Dame had a bunch of empty drives last year where, they would go up 7-0 and then they'd have 4 or 5 drives that were just like nothing. They were never losing the lead. It was always 7-0, 7-0, 7-0. And then they could go on a run. And it's like, next thing you know, it's 21-0 and the game's over, right? Because of the defense. The defense has to be similar this year, regardless of who the quarterback was going to be. This isn't really a quarterback conversation. It's just a fact of the matter. Irish for Life with a super chat here. Since no Riley as a third down threat to pick up first downs with the run, would you be comfortable with any direct snaps to Love or Price? It's interesting about this, Jamie, in the clips that Matt was able to get in some of those 3 minutes that they were doing direct snaps to the running backs. The first one was to Jabron Payne. I want to say the other one was to Nolan James. But if they're doing it with those guys, the quarterback they would line up in shotgun. The quarterback would move over. The running back would go under center. The quarterback would clap, it'd snap, and then they would run a zone read. They're practicing that for some kind of reason. I think it's in play. Would you be comfortable with that, especially with Jeremiah Love?
Oh, I think of on like short yardage, if that's one of the things you want to do. Yeah, I think. The other thing is everybody knew Riley Leonard was going to run in those situations, and he did. They never pulled I was actually kind of shocked they never pulled the fake.
The fake Tebow? Yeah, the Tebow.
Yeah, they never did that. Yeah. Oh, I guess they did no, it wasn't that. They faked the inside zone, little handoff, little dump off.
Against Indiana?
Yeah, they did that. But it wasn't the same as, that guy going in. I always think that is it's one of those things where it's not, that fake is just so unnecessary because everyone's just buying it based on what the line is doing. It's not based on that quarterback doing that at all. But yeah, I think, that could be something that they do only in short yardage. It's not going to be it can't be if it's 3rd and 3, they're not doing that. That's not a thing. They will keep the quarterback out there and have the option of all the other things.
And part of the benefit of that is we talked about it before. You have a very accurate quarterback who you can count on in that situation to deliver the pass the way that Notre Dame wants it delivered. So that's a benefit to having CJ Carr. But yeah, I mean, the thing too with them knowing about, when it was Riley Leonard in the thing, they know he's going to do it. The caveat to that is you got that extra blocker with Jeremiah Love or whoever the running back was. So you don't have that if it's Jeremiah Love at running back, unless you go out there with, the quarterback splits out wide and then that takes up the corner or whatever it might be. But if it's a quarterback back there and they do the action that I'm talking about in the viewing period, well, then that takes a blocker out of the equation. And so the numbers kind of change. It's like, well, if they know you want an extra blocker to take up for the player that's going to crash down when they get into that formation, it's kind of in the weeds or whatever. But, it kind of is what it is. Want to bring in our last sponsor of the day. I don't have a good ad read for it. I'm all flustered because of the day. And that's VSR Media. It's founded by Notre Dame Football pregame host and Emmy Award-winning anchor Vahid Sadrazadeh. VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long-form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior and sports photos. Contact them at vsrmediacompany.com. Mention Irish Sports Daily to receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106. All right, Jamie. Last thing today. We ran a little bit long. I knew we would because of the quarterback situation. Does this change how you feel about the season?
No, I mean, I still feel the exact same way where the quarterback is still, they made the decision. Great. It's still TBD with the quarterback. Like, that's just what it is. He hasn't played. And it would have been if it was Minchey or Carr, that none of that changes who it is. That's just, and even the thing with Leonard, where he had a track record, but it was like, okay, well, this is different. It's different. It's just like how, with Hartman, it wasn't the same offense he was running, right? And with the same receiver. So just like Beck, it's not going to be the same as what it was with Georgia, right? Like it makes it, interesting. I just think no matter who it was, they're supported by a really good roster. And now it's about if he can reach his potential. I think, he's set up well to reach his potential and do that and play well. But, like you kind of said, it doesn't mean that Kenny Minchey might not start a game this year because, he's hurt or, Carr's hurt, or that maybe Carr struggles and they need to go to Minchey at some point, right? Like, or, I do think the one thing that we could see is, I should have brought this up when that guy asked the question about the, not having Leonard. They might bring Minchey in for that short yardage to do that. Now that he's not the starting quarterback, you might feel like, hey, we're still going to use you in this way. And you can be like a short yardage threat, a red zone threat. And obviously too, he can throw the ball too. So
yeah,
rather than them just direct snapping it to, a running back. So I don't know. I think there might be some stuff there, package stuff there that they do with Minchey, because I don't think there was going to be package stuff for Carr if he didn't win the job, but there could be package stuff for Minchey. So in that way too, I think that's pretty intriguing, and I want to see if they do that.
Yeah. You could tell how big this news is. My mom just texted me a screenshot of Matt's article. CJ Carr named starting quarterback, and is this true? What's the question? Yes. Matt Freeman reported it. It is definitely true because Notre Dame reported it. It's funny. That's how big it is. That's how big it is. My mom is texting me questions about Notre Dame's starting quarterback. So, it's huge news. Huge news. And look, we move, right? We'll get some reporting on how this decision was made and, where it came from and what they expect and that sort of thing. So we'll go into that. And we'll go into all that. I'm gonna do a show because this is such big news. I'm gonna do a show tomorrow. Jamie doesn't have to be on this. The next Hit and Hustle with Jamie will be on Thursday. I'm going to do a show tomorrow where we discuss, unless something changes and I can't, but just look out for it. I'm going to discuss with the fans in the chat about how they feel about it and kind of get everyone's view, because I think everyone's got an opinion on this. So let's share it with the people. So that's going to be the deal. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. If you like what you heard, please hit that like. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell so whenever it is, we are going live. Hopefully, I'll be back tomorrow. If not, Jamie and I will be back on Thursday for a show. And we'll talk more about quarterback. We'll talk about the team, talk about everything else that may come up. So have a good rest of your day, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. Keep hitting and hustling.